Welcome to New Horizons, the podcast where we explore how people make their adventures happen. This week, British adventurer Sarah Outen and how she planned her £40,000 Kickstarter to pay for her adventure film. In November 2015, British adventurer Sarah Outen completed her most recent major expedition, London to London via the world, where she rode, cycled and kayaked 25,000 miles around the Northern Hemisphere. It took 4.5 years, didn't work out quite as she'd planned, but it was an epic adventure. She's written a book, Dare to Do, traditionally published. She's doing well as a motivational speaker. But then she decided she wanted to raise the money to put together a film using the footage from the expedition. She set up a Kickstarter to raise £40,000, and I talked to her about the planning behind that project. Here's my interview with Sarah Outen. I know you were filming during the course of this many-year-long expedition, so you've always had a film in the back of your mind, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And when did you sit down and work out how you were actually going to fund the making of that film?
So let's think. As you say, I always knew that I wanted to make a film. And it was really much like the rest of the expedition, I suppose, in terms of we'll try multiple approaches and see what works. So certainly before the journey, during the journey and after the journey, we were in talks with various production companies and channels and so on, and had some approaches and offers and plenty of rejections from that side of things. And I think once I started to understand that during the journey, certainly, I had this sense of I'm not going to give away my journey. Essentially, I'm not going to give away my journey to the wrong person. I need the story to be told with justice. And I want a really beautiful piece of documentary to come out of it. And so there was that sense of, well, if the right person doesn't come along, or there's not sort of opportunity for someone else to pay for it, I suppose, then we will make it ourselves. And that's sort of the situation we're in now. And I came out of the journey with debt, and I'm still, paying that off now. But the idea of making the film never went away. And so it came about that, we'd do whatever we needed to do to make it happen. And likely it would come out of crowdfunding. And I can't remember when crowdfunding became sort of as popular as it is now, perhaps. I think it was during my journey that it first sort of came on my radar and seemed like a way that we could make a film. And certainly various sort of pals of mine have made some films through crowdfunding. So it felt like a good way to do it, front the money by lots of people putting in little bits, which, the journey happened like that as well. It wasn't just one sponsor, it was lots. So that's how.
Well, just before we dig into the Kickstarter itself, what would the right offer have looked like?
That's an interesting one, I suppose. A mix of financial value and also enough involvement from me to feel like I could have some degree of input into the process, and a sense that the portrayal of the journey would reflect sort of my values and the essence of the journey, really. So it would have been great to have had an offer from a broadcaster in terms of the reach that would give, and the fact you could have sort of professional support throughout. But equally, there's some of my friends have had films made of their journeys on TV, and they were sort of frustrated by almost the butchery that was done to them. We certainly never had a financial offer, a financial offer that would make sense. And we never had anything in terms that the other side of it would would allow me to sort of sidestep the lack of financials, I suppose.
And in this context, we is you and Jen Randall.
Jen Randall's actually quite late to the project, really. So in starting out, I built a team of people who sort of reflected my, I guess, the core needs of the project. And it's interesting that there was never a filmmaker really in for that role and that role alone. Justine Kagenvin, she's a really sort of a world-renowned sea kayaker. She came on board as my the other half of my kayak team, essentially, like the leader, I suppose. And she's a filmmaker as well. So I talked a lot about filmmaking with her during the journey. And at one time we thought that she might be the filmmaker to make the finished product, but it sort of became clear partway through that actually it would probably need a fresh pair of eyes and some space from people who'd been involved in it. So when it became clear that we weren't going to get an offer or there was nothing that made sense and so on, I then sort of put it on a back burner almost and thought, I'm just going to wait until we've got the book out of the way, because that contract came first, and so publish the book and have enough space to find the right person. And it was in watching Operation Moffat, one of Jen Randall's films, must have been maybe 2 years ago now, certainly a year and a half ago, that I thought, right, she is the person I want to make this film. And so, yeah, that's how that collaboration has come about.
How many hours of footage do you have?
I don't know yet. I've not been through them all. That's a job for the next couple of months, is for me to go through and make lots of copies and try and make sure they're all ordered, because as happens, as you probably know, when you're out there, the time codes get misplaced, or I don't know, lots of the storage is probably a little bit jumbled at the moment. And for me to hand that over to Jen as the editor, it needs to make a bit more sense than it currently probably does.
And how much of that footage have you ever allowed to be shown by other people?
Not very much. Not very much. So Justine made a film of the first few kayaking legs, which were really short. So it was London to France, Russia to Japan. She made one film that kind of showed that, because that's what she does. And then the Aleutians, so there's quite a bit shown from the Aleutians, but the rest of it, barely anything, I suppose. Partway through the journey, I made a few films, and then I sort of realised, actually, I've got so much other stuff to do, this is just going to wait. So there's plenty of stuff that hasn't been seen by anybody, probably. And certainly the last few weeks, as I've been going back through some of it, just finding clips for Jen, it's been really powerful to be transported back to the moment, to kind of snaps in time where I hadn't even thought about that for 6 years, for 5 years, what have you. And there I am presented with this really visceral kind of bit of film about it. So most of it hasn't been seen.
And is this mostly footage that you shot yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In terms of percentages, let's see, probably 90% of it was shot by me. And then at various other points, we had other people doing it as well, be that Justine or certainly for the sort of the start and the finish, we had other people involved. And I suppose one of my regrets is that we didn't get a little bit more shot by external sources, but at the time that wasn't the priority and the funding wasn't there, so it's just what it was.
But I guess that does mean that you basically own the vast majority of this footage. Is there any negotiation about use of footage with other people?
No, that's all mine. So we paid people to shoot what they shot, so that's mine.
Why did you decide to do it via a Kickstarter?
Via Kickstarter as opposed to another crowdfunding platform?
Yes.
A crowdfund. So Jen has had a Kickstarter project before, and I think most of the folks that I know that have crowdfunded for stuff, especially films, have gone via Kickstarter. So I was happy to go with that. I couldn't really see, apart from the fact that with other platforms, actually, that there's the benefit that even if you don't reach your amount, you you still get that money. But we sort of thought that maybe people will be more compelled to pledge if they see that you only get it if you reach your target amount. And certainly Jen had been really pleased with the way that Kickstarter sort of operated and the support they gave her, and the fact they featured her psychovertical Kickstarter as a project we love. So we went on that route. And so far we've been happy with it.
Do you have a strategy if you turn out to be close but you're not going to make it in your time limit?
I don't know. My brother has said that he's prepared to top it up for us, and then I might have to pay him back to get us over the line. Yeah, we'll see. Reading about other projects and talking to other folks that have done it, I understand that there's often the sort of model of plateau, spike. So even though we're plateaued at the moment, but we're still getting money in. I mean, that's amazing. And we're still not quite at halfway. I'm confident that the final sort of 10 days, 7 days, 4 days, there'll be a spike. So hopefully it's enough of a spike to get us over the line.
So £40,000, how did you work out that budget?
So we sat down for a couple of days in the summer and basically categorized the whole process, sort of the final production and post-production and so on. And just like I do for any other budget, categorize it. What do you need? What do you have already? Which in this case was kind of nothing. And plus a bit of contingency, plus Kickstarter fees. So we kind of worked through that process. And then we split that whole figure down because we need more than 40K to make the film. And set ourselves the target of getting external sponsors so that wouldn't have to go through the Kickstarter sort of machine, because you lose out fees and so on and commission. And we took a while to settle on that figure, or that sort of split between what we'd go for Kickstarter and what we'd go for externally. And I suppose when we reach the 28th of October, we'll find out if that was a good idea or not.
Are these external sponsors already in place, or will you go after them once you know you've secured the Kickstarter?
So we've got £10,000 of external sponsorship already. That's split between 2 sponsors. And I'm in talks with another maybe 6 organisations that I've worked with before that hopefully we can secure another 2 at 5K so that we get that 20K sort of presenting sponsor tier filled, I suppose. But some of those, just their timings and things mean it's going to go beyond the Kickstarter campaign. And obviously, well, if we get the campaign figure sorted, then, we'll be able to reflect on what we need or don't need. And I don't know, my experience is that costs only ever rise. So it could be that we're topping up with some other thing to the end. We're quite keen to look at, I think it's called finishing funding. So there's various grant-making organisations, some of them through film festivals and so on, where if you've got a percentage of your film made already, then you can apply for sort of top-up funding almost, just to get you to that final sort of stage of actually getting the film out there. So that could be an option too.
So at the moment you're looking at a budget of about £60,000, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the sort of the £5,000 sponsors who come in, what do they get for that?
So it's kind of bespoke to a degree, but equally there is a sort of a framework for it, I suppose. So they're going to be the presenting sponsors. So it'll flash up the title of our film, which I'm not going to tell you yet. It will sort of flash up, and then it will be kind of each of those sponsors will get the screen to themselves for a few seconds, and ditto at the end. And then within that, they'll get sort of exclusive content and showings for themselves, and product placement, if that makes sense. But actually, the sponsors so far have been involved in the film anyway, so their stuff is throughout the film. And I can't remember the other things. There's definitely a sort of a bigger list than that. but it is kind of about exclusivity and visibility, definitely, and certainly for it's kind of our time essentially. So for one of the organisations sponsoring, it's a charity. I'm an ambassador for them, and so I'll go in and spend X many days with the schools that they work with on a tour essentially. So yeah, that worked well so far.
And so most of these sponsors presumably were involved with the trip one way or another.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Except there's one organisation that I've since kind of become involved with, and so yeah, they weren't involved in my expedition, but it could be that, well, they are interested in helping back it.
All right, so you come up with the idea for the Kickstarter. How much work did you do before launching to try and mobilise your base?
Yeah, it was quite a lot of work to start with, not just in mobilising the base, but also in just preparing the whole thing, like the whole package, I suppose, of thinking about your rewards, about your story, how you're going to present that, making the film itself and shooting the film and so on. That was certainly quite an involved process. And in terms of sort of mobilising the base, I think that started long ago in just talking about, we're going to be making the film, we're going to be making the film. So that's sort of always a drip that's going on. And certainly in the, since getting together with Jen as a sort of team to make the film, that's just been dripping a bit more, I suppose. And then, in the weeks preceding it, sort of getting in touch with folks saying, we're about to be launching this. Hopefully we can count on your support, and so on. So far, so good. There's certainly more this week, because in sort of recognising that peak, plateau, peak sort of pattern, I'm lining up various interviews and pieces that are going to go out over this next sort of, the final kind of 10 days, 7 days, etc.
And how did you decide on your different pledge levels and what you would be giving?
Well, I sort of thought about it from, I suppose, you're trying to think about the audience, and knowing who they are and how they've supported you before, and the fact you're going to have some people coming in that are totally new to the project maybe, and that's certainly the case. And looking at other Kickstarter projects and looking at projects that my friends had done and sort of asking them about it, it seemed to be that keeping the number of rewards relatively small, although I think we've still got 11 at the moment, for example, but having something that everybody could engage with. So definitely things at a lower level, but equally kind of making sure that it's worthwhile. So by the time you've lost out your Kickstarter fees and so on, you're still going to get left with something useful. And right up to, I put my kayak in there, one of the kayaks I'd used in my expedition, that's gone. So, we've had everything from, I think we're in for £18 for the film, right up to the kayak went for £1,250. But the average pledge, certainly speaking to others and looking at other campaigns, seemed to be about £30. We've got quite a few at that sort of 30 to 45 level of engagement. And what we've done is we've kind of gone through is looked at what's been really popular and changed the figures on some of them. So, for example, I didn't think anybody would want to paddle in a picnic with me, but we've sold over 10 now. So I sort of keep adding those. And equally, we've tried adding in some extras around that sort of £30-40 level, because they've been really popular. Perhaps where people have wanted to have a film for them and buy a film for a friend. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of wanted it to be good value though, but equally something sort of special. Yeah.
Some of them are actually involve costs in their own right. The mug and the book. There's the cost of production, and there's the cost of posting.
Yes, that's all been factored into the budgets as well. When we sat down and worked out, this is what we need, the raw costs of making the film, and then the Kickstarter costs as well. So we've worked that out. Hopefully we've got those calculations right.
Now, because your book, it was done with a traditional publisher, does that mean that you're having to buy copies of your book back at the author's discount?
Yes, which is quite expensive. I buy books at half price.
Right.
So sometimes it could be cheaper to get them from Amazon, by a matter of pence maybe. But yeah, it's £5 a book for me, or £5.25 or something, I think.
Who's working with you during the course of the Kickstarter to try and keep the enthusiasm and the momentum running? Is it just you? Have you got a team?
Yeah, it's just me and Jen. So we keep base with each other probably every day. Just sort of we'll touch base on how things are going and so on. And we've had a Skype call already since it's been going. We'll probably have another Skype call in a few days' time as well. And we're sort of always running ideas past each other and keeping each other up to date with. So I've got 3 interviews today, and I'm writing 2 different pieces, and so on like that. And then it's about just mobilizing your army of supporters. So fellow adventuring folk, friends and family, and writing specific emails to each of them saying, hey, here's my link. It'd be great if you could push this out another couple of times over the next week or so. And just always trying to think of ways that you could perhaps get something else out there, coming up with an idea to write something, or thinking of somebody else. And one thing we did last week that was quite fun was just put out a couple of different sort of 20-second clips from the journey. So Jen's, hopefully, by the time I speak to her again today, she'll have made a couple more of those that we can get out this week, just because everybody loves a bit of video. People always engage with video.
Oh yes, the classic mid-Skype call intervention. Right, Project We Love by Kickstarter, which you've been chosen for as well. What does that mean?
So I think it just means that you get a little badge on your page and you get featured on their Project We Love page. So you might sort of think, oh, that's not very much. But actually, if you look at all the stats of where your pledges are coming from, we have had some through that Project We Love link, through discovery on Kickstarter, through friends on Kickstarter. So probably, let's just work it out, we've had maybe 5% of pledges have come, it seems, just through Kickstarter, people sort of moseying around and kind of going, oh, that looks fun. So yeah, that's been good for us. Happy to have that extra boost in the profile.
In your budget for the entire thing, is there actually any kind of salary compensation going to you and or Jen for the hours of work that will go into making this film, or are you simply hoping to make some of that money back by selling the film in the long run?
No, we've definitely put money in for ourselves. Before on my projects, I haven't. Like with my journey, it's pay everyone else, but I don't pay myself. And certainly with this project initially, I said that I didn't want to put anything in for me, and Jen said, I really think you should. And so we have. It was always my intention that we'd pay Jen, the filmmaker, but I just put myself in as that's fine, I won't have anything. But actually, in doing that, it means that I can now look at, well, assuming we get the money, I can sort of look at my year ahead, and I can know that I don't have to say yes to every speaking offer that I get. I can actually be a bit more discerning about it, and know that, yeah, I am not going to have an issue financially with things. There's money coming in each month. So yeah, no, I've done that.
And are your speaking engagements your primary income stream?
Yes, they are. They are. And I feel like I'm in a transition at the moment, in that I'm ready to stop telling the story. I feel that in making the film, maybe there'll be another year afterwards of talking about that and going and promoting it and so on. And then I don't want to be doing speaking all the time. I want more balance in my projects. And yeah, it feels quite ephemeral to me. You travel for hours to get somewhere, you're there for an hour or so on. I want to be doing work where I have more time with young people. That's where I want to be, in that space. Mm-hmm. So after dinner speaking, I hate it. I do it because it pays, but I hate it. And I don't want to be doing things that I'm resenting. So.
Right, finally, so far into the Kickstarter, so you're kind of halfway through. Lessons learned, things that have taken you by surprise so far?
I suppose that it has been a lot of work, and a lot of work in managing it. Not to say that hasn't taken me by surprise, but I think anyone planning on a campaign should just be aware of that you're going to spend a lot of time answering emails and posting stuff and answering people's questions and posts and so on. So I think that's something to be aware of. Yeah, I'd also say about, we knew about it to start with, but I could see that you could sort of miss that, is that in your rewards and so on, the postage price that people pay for, so they're paying for that, but that gets included as part of your Kickstarter total. So I think, again, that's just something to be aware of, just so long as you're not faced with a big surprise at the end of it, realising you can't pay, you can't honour your offer. I can't think of any other stuff that I've sort of learnt in that process.
To break into our interview for a moment, I went on to ask Sarah a question that is said to be off the record. I'm playing it for you here because it's been superseded by events. In crowdfunding, it's very common for there to be a stomach-sinking plateau in the middle of the project. You have a huge rush of excitement at the beginning, and then it all just tails off. When I spoke to Sarah, she was sitting in the middle of that plateau. Fortunately, she got what is fairly common, which is the big second wind, a big rush of excitement as you approach the closing date, and she would eventually raise £42,093 against her £40,000 goal. You've got 282 backers. With your 16,000 Twitter followers and your 4,000 Facebook likes, and are you disappointed that only 280 people have come out for this?
No, not at all. I think that lots of people might be following you, but they're not necessarily active. So they might literally just not have seen your stuff for the duration that you've been talking about it. Others might have seen it and thought, oh, I'll do that later. Others might have seen it and thought, oh, other people are going to be doing that, I don't need to get involved. We reckon we need 600 people to back it, pretty much, to make it viable. But no, I don't. No, I don't think you have any right to almost to expect, really. I don't know. I don't. No, there's definitely no disappointment. I feel really humbled by the fact that nearly 300 people have got behind it in that way, and probably many more have shared it as well. Yeah, and maybe some other people are thinking, oh, I won't pay to back it, but I'll pay £18 to go to a film festival and see lots of other films as well as Sarah's film, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Thank you to Sarah for being so generous with her information about this crowdfunder. Now we wait and see what kind of film she and Jen managed to produce. Join us again next time when I talk to British mountaineer Rebecca Coles. She's a climber, expedition leader and mountaineering instructor. She has funded many of her own expeditions through adventure grants, and she now sits on the screening committee for the Mount Everest Foundation. This is the UK's most important source of expedition funding, paying out over £40,000 a year to a wide range of expeditions. Join us next time to find out why you should be applying for adventure grants. Stations from the world of women's sport, including articles, blogs, videos and podcasts, visit wispsports.com. Wisp Sports Radio is the world's largest podcast network for women's sport, with more than 750 episodes across 30 shows and a global audience of 1.5 million. You'll find it on all major podcast players such as iTunes and Google Play, and follow Wisp on social media at Wisp Sports for regular updates and news.
Wake up to the